नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी प्रश्यत देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवचार्य अस्तोतरस्य श्री डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवचार्य अस्तोतरस्य डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत श्री गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोधाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। मथुरा धाम की जय। मायापुर नदी धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगामयी जमुनामयी की जय। तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Guru and Gaurang.
Jai, Jai, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mahesh ji. And Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone for Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Wednesday, April 30th, 2025 in New York. And we're picking up today with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 14, the story of King Vena. And today's starting verse is number 10. And someone would like to read and comment, please let me know in the chat and we'll get to it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is the sages speaking, the sages of the kingdom who had enthroned Vena, and now they're having some misgivings. Aher eva paya poshaha, posha kashyapyanartha brit, Vena prakrityaiva kalaha, sunita garba sambhavaha. The sages began to think within themselves, because he was born from the womb of Sunita, King Vena is by nature very mischievous. Supporting this mischievous king is exactly like maintaining a snake with milk. Now he has become a source of all difficulties. Report, saintly persons are generally aloof from social activities and the materialistic way of life. King Vena was supported by the saintly persons just to protect the citizens from the hands of rogues and thieves. But after his ascendance to the throne, he became a source of trouble to the sages. Saintly people are especially interested in performing sacrifices and austerities for the advancement of spiritual life. But Vena, instead of being obliged because of the saint's mercy, turned out to be their enemy because he prohibited them from executing their ordinary duties. A serpent who is maintained with milk and bananas simply stores poison in his teeth and awaits the day to bite his master. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timidantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yeah, the sages were the people who initially got King Vena on the throne. You'd think he'd be grateful, but no, he's just making their life more difficult. And so now they're starting to consider what their plan B might be, what their next move is in this. Interesting to hear, which he'll continue in this section. He'll speak more. Prabhupada is saying that saintly persons are generally aloof from social activities in the materialistic way of life. And we'll hear in the next purport how he expands on that. It's very interesting, I thought. And here in this verse number 10, the way that it's rendered in the translation of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's version, he says, by nature, Vena is wicked, being born from the womb of Sunita. He is like a snake nourished by milk, which is a cause of danger for its maintainer. And his commentary says, what to speak of being a danger to the citizens? We have made him the king, but he now punishes us by announcing that we cannot perform sacrifice. Difficult situation. Maharaj, would you like to say something here?
Cannot hear you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastrita Deshatarane. Well, the first topic is that comes is generally the sages stay out of this kind of stuff. They don't get involved in politics. They don't get involved in social issues. This is not their business. Sages are meant for philosophy. Prabhupada, sages are meant for philosophy, thought, teaching. They're not meant for administration or inserting themselves into political affairs. But in this instance, they did because the citizens had no one to protect them. And so the sages felt obliged. But Vena Prakratyaiva Kala, he was cruel by nature, mischievous by nature. This points to, because Sunita Garbhasambhava, he's born of the womb of Sunita. This points to something which has become sort of passé in the modern world, or overlooked, or considered spurious, and that's what we call breeding. The term is, we used to hear of a person of good breeding, and usually that's just taken to mean, these days, refined, genteel. He's taken lessons in social etiquette and so on. But the literal meaning of breeding is breeding. It's how you put the parents together or what parents you put together to ensure good offspring, suitable offspring. That's breeding. And in the Vedic culture, they're careful about that. The astrologers, of course, are involved, but there are all sorts of considerations. What community are the husband and wife from? What is their nature? In matching, from what I understand, first consideration is divine or demonic. Demonic boy should be matched with a demonic girl. A boy of a godly nature should be matched with a girl of the same nature. That's immediately there. And then so many other considerations about family heritage and the quality of the family. So that, of course, we say Kalo Sudra Sambhava. In Kali Yuga, everyone is Sudra by nature. And in part, that's because all of these things are ignored. So that we don't know who's previously, like King Parikshit, he was the son of a Kshatriya family, and it was expected that he would have the Kshatriya qualities. But now anybody mixes with anybody, and everything's according to personal attraction. And these considerations are lost. But we find here that there was apparently something important overlooked, that the girl was the daughter of death personified, and so she took on these qualities, or the offspring, the son born of her, took on these qualities. We find in Alhadcharta that Indra was concerned that this is the son of Hiranyakashipu, so he'll have demonic qualities. And it was only by Narada's intervention that Indra and the demigods left his mother alone. So this is material. On the spiritual platform, everyone is equal. Everyone is the same nature, but in family heritage has an influence on the embodied nature the child assumes, where a child meant to be of a certain nature is placed in a particular family of a particular heritage. So these things are considered. But then finally, by devotional service, one becomes transcendental to these things. But even then, these considerations may be taken into account. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, the question may arise, King Anga, being a king, how did he messed up or how forgot to check up?
Yeah, I don't really know how this was there. How is it that he, such an important personage, was matched up with a girl of that descent, that extraction? It's not mentioned. It's not mentioned, and you wonder, wait a second, who made this match?
Yeah, right.
But it's not mentioned. Bhagavatam doesn't, and
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions before? Yes, there is.
Saraswati Mastaji writes, Pranams Param Puja Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. Does the detrimental quality of turning on the person that is your well-wisher, provider, protector that we see in demigods to originate or stem from the envy of Krishna that starts the downfall?
Yes, finally, envy of everyone else starts from envy of Krishna, so we can take it that way. Krishna is the original well-wisher, the original provider, protector, and when we're envious of Krishna, then from there comes envy of others. Otherwise, in the spiritual world, there's no envy. That's one of the conspicuous qualities of the distinguishing qualities of the spiritual world. It's free from envy. So as soon as we leave that atmosphere of Krishna consciousness, then envy can arise.
All right, Krishna. Radhesha Prabhu, are you able to read our text 11?
I'm currently on the road, not just listening and appreciating. Thank you, Prabhu.
Very good, thank you. Mahesh Panditji, can you also?
Yes, sure. Number 11. Nirupita prajapala sa jidham satim vai prajaha tathapi sanchaye mamum nasamam tat patsakam spushet. We appointed this Vana king of the state in order to give protection to the citizen. But now he has become the enemy of the citizens. Despite all these discrepancies, we should at once try to pacify him. By doing so, we may not be touched by the sinful results caused by him. By doing so, we may not be touched by the sinful results caused by him. The saintly sages elected King Vana to become king, but he proved to be mischievous. Therefore, the sages were very much afraid of incurring sinful reaction. The law of karma prohibits a person even to associate with a mischievous individual. By electing Vana to the throne, the saintly sages certainly associated with him. Ultimately, King Vana becomes so mischievous that the saintly sages actually became afraid of becoming contaminated by his activities. Thus, before taking any action against him, the sages tried to pacify and correct him so that he might turn from his mischief. Here, practical advice is that one should not associate with mischievous person. Stay away from that. And the sages were actually thinking that way, that we made him a king and somehow we associated with him. So we have to mitigate this problem. And they were very careful about that. If you associate with the wrong person, then you go in a wrong direction. That's for sure. That's why it is advised that we always associate with devotees. And in the association of devotee, we make sure that we are protected. Yes, Maharaj, thank you.
Maharaj, you're muted.
Again, Hare Krishna. Nirupita Prajapala Sajjighamsati by Prajaha. We made him the Prajapala, the protector of the Praja, the citizens. As we have Gopala, so we have Prajapala.
Yeah.
Krishna is the Gopal, protector of the cows, and the king is the protector of the citizens, or all who were born in the realm. So we made him the Prajapala, but now he's becoming a source of, he's like the Praja oppressor, the source of harm to the Praja. So just the opposite of what we intended. We've put the fox in charge of the chickens. So so that it comes to us, where we're responsible, where we've made this huge error. We shouldn't even associate with a person of this caliber, and we've made him the king. So the sinful reaction for his activities also comes to us. We're contaminated by having put him in charge. Not that we can wash our hands of it and say, well, we acted in good faith. We tried to do something good, and hey, don't look at us. It's his, his wrongdoing, not ours. But no, we feel responsible. We put him there, so we have to take the responsibility for this. Tatapi santvayamam. So now we should pacify him. One can picture the sages. What's the word? There's a word. Well, approaching the king with trepidation, very carefully approaching the king so as not to tick him off, not to anger him, and speaking sweet words to the king. In fact, I think that comes in later verses. Speaking sweet words, trying to, flatter him a little and turn him toward the right path. So there's, this was the first policy in trying to deal with a difficult person. Well, try to pacify him, try to see if you can get him to loosen up, to do the right thing. But as we'll see, that's not going to happen. Hare Krishna. And it's
Maharaj,
interesting, just while I'm thinking of it, that they do take this. They don't just escalate to the top right away. Okay, let's kill him. They first try the milder approach. Let's see if we can pacify him. This is appropriate. This is what cultured people do. They don't just break out their pistols first thing. Let's see if we can pacify this man. Hare Krishna.
we're reminded of your conversation with the New York City policeman.
My conversation?
Yes, you said he told you his primary weapon is his mouth.
Oh, yes.
Any other discussion on this text before we move on? I was going to see whether Saraswati Mata could read our text 12.
I'm not sure about the meter for this verse. Anyway, tad vidvabhira sadvrito vinosmabhi krito nripaha santvito yadi no vacham nagrahasyati adharmakrit lokadhikara sandagadam dahishyama swatejasa. Translation: The saintly sages continued thinking, of course we are completely aware of his mischievous nature, yet, nevertheless, we enthroned Vina. If we cannot persuade King Vina to accept our advice, he will be condemned by the public, and we will join them. Thus, by our prowess, we shall burn him to ashes. Purport: Saintly persons are not interested in political matters, yet they are always thinking of the welfare of the people in general. Consequently, they sometimes have to come down to the political field and take steps to correct the misguided government or royalty. However, in Kali Yuga, saintly persons are not as powerful as they previously were. They used to be able to burn any sinful man to ashes by virtue of their spiritual prowess. Now, saintly persons have no such power due to the influence of the age of Kali. Indeed, the Brahmanas do not even have the power to perform sacrifices in which animals are put into a fire to attain a new life. Under these circumstances, instead of actively taking part in politics, saintly persons should engage in chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna. By the grace of Lord Chaitanya, by simply chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the general populace can derive all benefits without political implications. Om Gyananti Mirindasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. It's clear the saints, the saintly persons were not indifferent to the fates of the citizens that are now being ruled by a tyrant king. They understood the fates of those that are now being forced to live in a godless state. They definitely exhibited the qualities of Brahmanas, namely patience, tolerance, and it's not that they completely adopted the extreme measure of killing the king. That was really the last resort. They understood that leaving things as they are, of course they felt responsible because they were the ones that elected to install the king on the royal throne. They've realized that they've exercised, that they can have the option of exercising Brahminical power, Brahma Tejas, that they had. But that was only the last resort. They were going to try and talk with the king and see if they could somehow or another convince him to take the correct path and guide the citizens on the spiritual path. That was their first option. Failing that, they were not now going to shy away from exercising their Brahminical power of, well, as it says, burning the king to ashes. Srila Prabhupada lets us know that in Kali Yuga, Brahmanas no longer have that sort of power, and also in Kali Yuga it's forbidden to sacrifice a cow or a horse in the sacrificial ceremony, because they also no longer have the potency to chant mantras that can give life anew to the animals that were sacrificed. So all of that's been forbidden in Kali Yuga. Also, I was thinking that Srila Prabhupada also says that the sages didn't dabble in playing political games per se, but just to ensure that the Vedic culture was followed rigidly, they do come down, so-called, to the political field, just to ensure that people are progressing spiritually, which of course is the purpose of life, and time is not wasted by people who are just sort of fighting this tyrannical rule. Srila Prabhupada, of course, reiterates how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically came to spread the Sankirtan movement. That is our recommended dharma for the age of Kali Yuga. That is where the power comes from, in purifying everyone and in delivering people from the cycle of birth and death. There is no other option but the Sankirtan movement and the chanting of the Mahamantra. I was reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita today that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, is busy spreading the Sankirtan movement, but they also talk about this dharma, what is the absolute religion for all ages, not just in Kali Yuga. And any religion that doesn't bring one to the point of having absolute love for Krishna is called a cheating religion. And also in the purport, they talked about how on the material platform, animalistic leaders are worshipped by animals, and how different conditional souls with whatever gunas they happen to be struggling with or influenced by have in their mind who their personal hero or Mahajan or Mahatma happens to be. It's all based on who really can offer them sense gratification that is appealing to them specifically. And you can basically gauge the mentality of people from who they support and vote for and put into power. Here we know that the Brajas, they are actually very inclined to walk the spiritual path and become purified. Nowadays we see that the sort of leaders that are elected, it's just the mentality of the people is just so degraded now that the sort of leaders that appeals to them are completely inappropriate and completely unsuitable for guiding anyone that is seriously considering becoming purified and breaking the cycle of birth and death. Maharaj Shri, if you would like to say some words, would really appreciate it. Hare Krishna.
I don't know that I have anything to add here. I spoke to this before, that generally we stay out of politics. It's only because of extreme circumstances that the sages intervened, but the sages of today don't have the same powers as in those days. But someone may say, well, saintly persons should just chant instead of getting involved in politics. And one will say, well, yeah, okay, that's like a cop-out. You're refusing to take the necessary political action and just going off and chanting. But chanting has power. People can, by simply chanting Hare Krishna mantra, general populace can derive all benefits without political implications. So either the government can be changed by an enlightened populace, or enlightened people can what's the word? Stay out of the way of, stay out of entanglement in government affairs. Or even if they come under political oppression or what have you, still they'll be transcendently situated. Hare Krishna.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, those who elect are party to the sins. So in democracy, if devotees vote a leader who can't stop the sinful activities, are they party to sin?
Well, they've certainly, if they elect someone who's sinful in his administration, well, they have to take some share of the blame. If he's just incompetent or feeble, I don't know that there's even then we might say we shouldn't be there. But and again, I'm not Yamaraj, I don't calculate these things. Hare Krishna.
Any other comments? Oh, wait, there is more.
Saraswati Mataji writes, could there be some rare brahmanas now that remain hidden but actually have Brahmateja? Foolish people are allured by some parlor tricks of some Brahmins and consider them genuine.
Well, this is an exercise in possibilism. Could X be possible? Well, how can we prove that X couldn't be possible? There might be someone somewhere who has these powers. We haven't seen it. But we see power, there's sort of not what it used to be, but still the power to bewilder people. That power still is there. And perhaps it's made, you don't need as much power to bewilder people in the present age because people already have bewildered, if not more. They're disposed to be bewildered. Hare Krishna.
Hari Gupta Prabhu writes, Hari Krishna Maharaj, elsewhere there is quite a clear picture that Brahmanas are advisors to the king and have their eye on affairs, but here a different picture is given. The Pandavas had Ramya as their Brahmana guide, for example.
The different picture here is that the Brahmins didn't seem to want to be involved, but they did get involved. But yes, that's also there, that the king would have his Brahminical advisors. I was in Istanbul one time at some historical spot or I think some historical spot. And there was like a mural of the king and surrounded by his ministers. And, of course, they had their beards and so on. They were not the classic Indian Brahmins. But you could see that the king was surrounded by his advisors. They were not royalty. They were meant to be sagacious. So that system is everywhere, that the king should have advisors. There's a Chanika Shlok, trees on a riverbank, a loving woman in another man's house, and kings without counselors go undoubtedly to swift destruction. So the king must have advisors, and yes, they should be Brahminical advisors. Hare Krishna.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, there are the priestly class and the Slochan class Brahmins.
The Slochan class, I'm trying to remember what they are. There's a mention in sort of an odd circumstance in Bhagavatam. Is this the one where they don't quite recall the details? But yes, the king must be guided. Hare Krishna.
Saraswati Mata, please go ahead.
I'm thinking of a time when Guru Maharaj of Lord Ramchandra Vasisht Muni, he himself was put in a lovely position actually where he felt so overwhelmed, and this is during the Bharat, when he went to the forest to try and see if he can convince Lord Ramchandra to come back and give all these logical arguments of these promises that were made, and the father had passed away and the promises were made to him. So somehow or another Bharat was trying to convince Lord Ramchandra to just come back, accept the throne, and Lord Ramchandra, of course, was giving his arguments. All this was going back and forth, and when they approached Vasisht Muni to see what guidance they could obtain from him, he's like, I'm just overwhelmed with this beautiful love on both sides. I can't say anything, because he just felt like there's just so much love between the brothers. So he felt he wasn't qualified to really give his advice. I thought that was such a lovely thing there. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mata. Hare Krishna. Ras Prabhu, would you like to read our next text, number 13?
Yes, Prabhu.
I see. I think I get Prabeen's drift here. There's a priestly class and the Salonchana class. There are different classes of Brahmins. The Salonchan Brahmins are the ones who pick up grains from the field. And then there's a priestly class. So there's those who would be the priests of the king, and they would be in charge of the religious affairs of royalty and so on. I think that's the point he's making. Yes, Hare Krishna.
Okay, text 13. Evam adyavasaya nam munayo buddha manyava uparajka bhuvan venam samtvayitva cha samabi. Translation. The great sages, having thus decided, approached King Vena. Concealing their real anger, they pacified him with sweet words and then spoke as follows.
Yes, this is wise. When you approach the king, then one should be careful. In Ecclesiastes, it said, "Don't curse the king even in your dreams." I think that's what it says, if I recall. You may come to speak what you're thinking, and then you're going to get in trouble. So, Muniyo Gutamanyava, they were angry, but they covered their anger. Well, you don't want to get in trouble, and also it would be contrary to their mission. They're trying to coax the king and perhaps flatter the king a little, and so you can't do that if you show your real mentality, that I think you're totally off the wall. You're not only off the wall, you're sinful and treacherous and cruel and mean, and we've had it with you. No, you have to hide your anger and be nice and say sweet things. So that's their approach here. Concealing that. Yes.
Saraswati, Mataji writes, usually the kings were careful around saints like Pandavas and Durvasha and Dasarath and Vishwamitra.
Yes. Well, they would be respectful. That's the duty of the king, is to respect the Brahmins. Yes.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, Vashishta was the family priest of the Ishvaku dynasty, whereas Vishwamitra was not a priest, but would go to the king, not for administration, but help.
Yes. So again, we see Brahmins in different circumstances. Someone's the king's priest, and someone is the supplicant of the king. Yeah, Your Majesty, we need your help.
Ross Prabhu, please go ahead and read text 14 if you like.
Yes. Unia utru nipa varya nibodaitad gate vinyapayama bo ayu tri bala kirtanam tavatata vivardhanam. Translation. The great sages said, Dear King, we have come to give you good advice. Kindly hear us with great attention. By doing so, your duration of life and your opulence, strength, and reputation will increase. Purport. According to Vedic civilization, in a monarchy, the king is advised by saintly persons and sages. By taking their advice, he can become the greatest executive power, and everyone in his kingdom will be happy, peaceful, and prosperous. The great kings were very responsible in taking the instructions given by great saintly personalities. The kings used to accept the instructions given by great sages like Prasha, Vyasadeva, Narada, Devala, and Asita. In other words, they would first accept the authority of saintly persons and then execute their monarchical power. Unfortunately, in the present age of Kali, the head of government does not follow the instructions given by the saintly persons. Therefore, neither the citizens nor the men of government are very happy. Their duration of life is shortened, and almost everyone is wretched and bereft of bodily strength and spiritual power. If citizens want to be happy and prosperous in this democratic age, they should not elect rascals and fools who have no respect for saintly persons.
This is the, yes, Nripavarya, oh, best of kings. So clearly they're flattering him. He's the worst of kings. But Nripavarya, best of kings, kindly try to understand. We're going to instruct you in such a way that it will be good for you. You'll get wealth, you'll get longevity, you'll get strength, you'll get a good reputation. So listening to us will be of value for you. It'll come to your benefit. And Prabhupada says that by taking their advice, he can be happy and become great, and the kingdom will be prosperous and happy and peaceful, and then the king gets a great reputation. And so the kings would follow the advice of the sages. Why would I not want my kingdom to be successful? But if we don't hear, what is it? There's something again. Let's find it. This is Ecclesiastes again. Don't mind. Better a poor but wise youth than an old but foolish king who no longer knows how to receive advice. So it's crucial to have good advisors, and then a good advisor is useless if you don't listen to him. Kings without counselors go to swift destruction, but so also kings who won't listen to their counselors. That's what we'll find here. So, and generally, of course, Ecclesiastes, an old and foolish king, that tendency is there, that when you're old, you think you know everything, you're on top of it. I've been here before. I'm on top of all this, and I don't need you to tell me what to do. So an old man thinks he knows everything. What will this young kid tell me, and why should I bother listening? So in this way, he becomes foolish. He becomes foolish. Not that young people can't be foolish also, but it's a particular species of fool, old fools. What is it? There's no fool like an old fool.
Bishop Prabhu writes, hearing Nipavarya, I feel compelled to beg the blessings of the assembled Vaishnavas for Adrivarya, my son, on his first birthday today. May he have none of the qualities of Vena.
That's a small blessing, may have none of the qualities of Vena, may be a wonderful Vaishnava.
Saraswati. Yes, Maharaj. Saraswati, she writes, non-devotees get enraged when they wrongly assume that they are being patronized.
That's the art, how to flatter without seeming to flatter, how to patronize without seeming to patronize. It's a fine art.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, a candidate could show respect to the saintly for votes.
Oh, yes, that's there, and especially in places that have some religious sentiment. I quoted before that many years ago, who was it? Adlai Stevenson, who was an American politician, ran unsuccessfully for the presidency, and his wife was quoted as having said, I knew he decided to run when he called me and asked me to get the children ready for church. So yes, that tendency is there. We want to seem like saintly people so that we'll get the religious vote, or we want to be associated, have our picture taken with religious dignitaries, so that some of their sheen will reflect upon us. Yeah, all sorts of hypocrisy come into these things.
Desha Prabhu writes, thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Everyone can give blessings to our Adrivarya, Radhesh's sons.
So we can pause now for kirtan, and
yeah, you can unmute and give a lot of blessings to Adrivarya. Go ahead.
Blessings to Adrivarya Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Okay, there we are. Some hands, some trumpets. Very good. Hare Krishna. And Kirtan.
Kirtan. Yes, someone please lead Kirtan. Anyone can do it. Even a child can take part.
That's right. So we have Krishna Kante Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Haribo, Gora Haribo, Nita Gora Haribo, 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 Gora Haribo, Nita Gora Bimnande Haribo, Ma'am Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale, Srimati Guru Das Jayadvaita Swami, iti namine. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami iti namine. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimati Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Shinravadi Pasachadistane. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. Jai Sri Guru and Guranga Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Bo.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare
Maharaj
Krishna.
Prabhu says, Jai, thank you, Maharaj and Akendra Prabhu. All glories to the assembled devotees, especially Adri Varya. Thank you, Krishna Konteya Prabhu, and thank you everyone so much for being here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj ki jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you to all. Hare Krishna.